Small white flowers blossom all around you. A rubber dinghy, it's deflated, broken.
An old man wearing tracksuit trousers leans on the frame stock of his rifle. He gathers a big ball of spit in his mouth.
The deserter.
Then spits it out into the extinguished fire before him. He raises his black eyes, hooded by creased eyelids, to meet yours. Unclouded by cataracts, his eyesight is sharp. He's practically tearing up from spite. Hatred got the best of him a long time ago. This man hates everything.
Is it possible he just shot him out of, like, just revenge? Are you the fire guy?
The what now? I can't hear you.
Did you recently tell 2 kids to put out their fire? 2 twins.
I may have. All sorts of little rats have come sniffing around, trying to give up the position. Fire guy. Regressive bourgeoisie henchman. Can't even talk like a grown-up.
Okay. You've retained your eyesight.
My eyesight? Yes. Helps me see all the shit.
Did you close the blast door?
I did. And you opened it. How?
I feel the generator, then use the console.
I should have burned that console down.
Shakes his head. How did you know I was coming?
Reactionary rock and roll music. Playing on the water.
He gestures towards.
Told you we shouldn't play sad FM.
It was not reactionary. It was cool.
The fascists were right about rock and roll. It is degenerate. Hip-gyrating mental illness music.
Nice gun you got there.
It's not nice. It's a piece of shit. But it gets the job done.
Is that a Bell McGrave?
It's a 3-angong 446.
A samurai rifle. How did you get hold of one?
It was sent to us by our brothers in the Sinyao commune. Military aid.
Pats the rifle.
It has stayed true to him. He can still make it sing.
The Sinyao commune?
You heard me. It's good now. Like chalk wiped from the board.
His gaze turns inwards. Your weapon has stayed true to you. Mine has stayed true to me. Okay. Sir, I need you to put down the gun so you can talk further. We're the police. Let's go with the let's repeat what hand-eye coordination was saying. Your weapon has stayed true to you, mine has stayed true to me.
Yes. I bet you've killed a lot of people with it. You fascist fuck.
His eyes narrow.
Have you come to make me one of them?
His grip on the rifle tightens.
We have come to ask you questions. Nothing more.
Lieutenant puts his hand on his holster.
If you do not comply, we will take you in. Do you understand?
Another spitball lands in the ashes. That's all the answer he gives.
Sorry for disturbing you. Goodbye. I'm with the police. You can keep the gun, but keep it down. Not one move.
No.
Lieutenant aims his pistol square at the man's head and says,
Put it down now, sir.
Or you're gonna blow my brains out before you question me. To hell with it. It's a walking stick anyway. It's out of bullets.
The old man lays the rifle down carelessly, then looks at it lying there.
Like an amputated limb in the sand.
Well, let's pick it up.
His gaze follows your motions. The rifle feels surprisingly light in your hand. Frame stocked and patched in places with tape and wire. Still warm from his parched hands. Not the metal. The metal is ice cold. This weapon has been modified several times.
Inspect it closer.
The rifle's in a shabby state, like a crutch that's seen too much travel. Hieroglyphs are embossed into the forearm, made of walnut.
This is not at all what I expected. Like, oh, this game constantly surprises you.
On the butt, you see Vespertine writing, burnt into the wood. Triangong, 4.46mm, made in Sinyao.
This uses jacketed ammunition, 446.
The right type and the right calibre.
Lieutenant nods, glancing at the gun.
He's liking this.
Says he said it's a Triangong made in Sinyao.
No one said it has to be a Belmagrave. We were just guessing.
Lieutenant does not take his eyes off the old man.
From ballistics, it could easily have been a Triangong, too.
Triangong.
It doesn't matter if it was made in Shanti Shanti. All it has to do is use jacketed ammunition. And it does.
Rifle has been patched and modified several times.
I wonder how old it is.
The old man does not answer. He just stares in front of him.
Stow the gun.
The old man keeps following your motion with his gaze. His right arm twitches suddenly. This looked very much like the murder weapon. It could be used against him to get a confession. In time.
Who are you?
My name is Josef Lilianovich Dross, political commissar of the 114th Anti-Aircraft Division of the 4th Army of the Commune of Revachol. I am a deserter, a partisan, and a prisoner of war. This is my termless surrender.
Has he just been living out here this whole time? His eyes turn to the reeds again, dead and dull.
The commune of Revachol? Do you mean the ICM? Your holdover from the...
From the Insular Indian Citizens Militia, the army of the revolution. I was recruited in Jamrock in 07, trained in the École de Contrôle Orient, and consigned to emergency defense duties in 08. I left my unit on the eve of the landing. When I returned here on May 14th, the commune had fallen.
Huh.
Still armed and ideologically trained, I wrote a criticism of myself and resumed partisan duties.
How long have you been on this island?
43 years. No. I've been on other islands too.
Ah.
I was an resurrection until they turned it into a spa in 18. Then I was an E-48, a nameless sound, until the sea washed over it. Then I came back here. That was 22 years ago.
Isn't that the same amount of time it would take for us to get over the love of our life? Again, you've been hiding here for 43 years?
43 years and 10 months.
That's the length of my entire life.
It's too long. It's not how a human being should live. I couldn't just forget what I saw.
He, the way he's behaving kind of, mirrors our own behavior, right? Like we can't let go, even though it's been awful for us.
He just couldn't.
You couldn't give up.
He nods. But he can now.
What have you been doing during all this time?
Hiding, fishing, waiting.
He looks across the water.
2 police officers step out of the Whirling in Rags cafeteria. Satellite officer Jean-Vic Mayer inspects a series of burnt black letters splashed across the plaza mosaic.
Wait, they came back?
Patrol officer Judith Minot points west. The fishing village. She glances at her watch. We meet in 15 minutes. It's a 10-minute walk. The officers go, leaving behind the writing, still smoldering. One day, it says, I will return to your side.
Always waiting.
The old man turns his eyes from the shore and back to you. For what?
For her to return.
Jesus.
Her who?
Girl child. Revolution.
I come from there, point to the mainland. I can assure you that is not what the people are planning. I've been there. The city is a tinderbox. It may still happen. I've seen it. Capital is too powerful. The rich are very well organized. Women will always betray you. Jeez. Girl child revolution. I don't know what to answer here. I guess women will always betray you.
Women are more susceptible to bourgeois morals. The material base for an uprising has eroded. The working class has betrayed mankind and themselves. The historic opportunity for a revolution has passed. It will not come back anymore, however hard I try, whatever I do.
What has he done? Perhaps a confession would lighten the load.
What have you done then?
Yes, what? To get things going again? Fan the flame?
There is no flame to fan. There is nothing left of the world, of our dreams.
You said you deserted your unit.
I was just 16 years old, 15 when I volunteered. I had a lapse of faith. And of courage, too.
Lapse of faith.
You could say I misunderstood the historic role of the proletariat and thought Mazovian socioeconomics were fallible. For a second, I doubted the irreducible laws of historic materialism. A second is all it took
For what?
for reaction to take hold.
What's reaction?
Petty bourgeois terror. It's in all men.
It wasn't reaction. You were just afraid.
It's the same thing. You haven't seen it. Not really. Not naked. It's impossible not to be afraid.
And this was when?
Tedon instinctively looks to his notebook, but does not take it out.
May the 13th, 08. 44 years ago.
He looks north.
The horizon was black with coalition airships. Their petroleum rose to the sky, and it looked like it formed the clouds. Storm clouds. When they started shelling, it was dark magic.
Dark magic.
The combined might of international capital. All at once, all the greed and terror in the world tore into Revachol. It lifted streets from the ground and turned houses into ghosts. We were in the flak tower,
He gestures toward it.
huddled on the floor. The artillery was 80 kilometers away in Ozon, but I knew the commune would fall. We would all be turned into ash. So I said I was going to the map room.
He looks east.
A terrible shame, still within him. The lobes of his ears are red with it. The shame and smallness of what he became.
He didn't go to the map room.
No. I climbed the chain link across the water and hid inland, in the bunkers there, like the weakest of the weak. A mouse, frightened at the ordnance all night, and the sound of the rotors in the morning, whirring.
Sounds like an appropriate response. What was that?
Airships. I climbed out into hell. The landing was complete. The chain was submerged. I had to swim back. The fortress was half submerged too, shattered. They'd all drowned in the lower levels, or got torn to shreds above. The anti-aircraft gun had malfunctioned. So had I. I left them without ideological direction. It was real. I'd seen it. I'd seen it in reality.
Seen what?
The mask of humanity fall from capital. It has to take it off to kill everyone, everything you love. All the hope and tenderness in the world. It has to take it off just for 1 second to do the deed. And then you see it, as it strangles and beats your friends to death. The sweetest, most courageous people in the world. You see the fear and power in its eyes. Then you know.
What?
That the bourgeois are not human.
Let him finish.
I had to. I had to fight it. I had to never stop.
The old man falls silent. His black eyes keep piercing your skin as he looks to some great distance behind you, shaking his head slowly, retreating from it. So what is this place, this island?
It's not an island, Dwat. It's a defensive fortification of the commune of Revachol. And I am its last surviving defender.
What was it used for?
The congenitally deformed King Philip II built it to restrict access to the Bay of Revachol. We captured it in '02, retrofitted the fort with an AA gun to defend against an airborne landing. Against the whole world.
You mean the landing, retaking of Revachol?
Coalition military called it Operation Deathblow. I later found out on the radio they called it Deathblow. You're one of them. Tell me, who speaks like that? We had 50 million people on Caillou alone.
Murderers, I know what you mean.
You don't know. You haven't seen it. Iblis.
Iblis?
The black-eyed angel.
He nods. How have you survived all this time?
How does anyone survive? I steal.
Looks at his worn running shoes.
Now hold on there.
That's a choice. You could have become self-employed, create the system.
You're insane and grotesque. Everyone steals. Vegetables, supplies. It's the life of a dog.
Costs once more, then puts his hand on his belly. Making that money still!
How is your health, Mr. Dross?
I've been throwing up blood since winter. Red, like beetroot. Been passing it in stool, too.
The RCM can provide medical services. You need to be looked over.
I need to die. You don't have medical facilities. You have guns. That's all they give you. Toy guns.
We have Druamine and other opioid-based painkillers. You must be in pain.
I have been running out of that stuff.
Light goes on in his eyes. He smacks his dry lips. This is a serious situation. You need to be looked over. How have you coped mentally?
I haven't. I have holes in my brain. Years missing. Others filled with pain only. A decade of...
His eyes roll into his skull and back.
I don't even know what. Inferno?
Nod appreciatively. I also live in hell. Yeah. I was actually going to say I also have holes in my brain. Point to your head.
No wonder. All your minds are rotting from the radio waves. I watched the traitors of this city turn the lights back on. More and more each year. Ruins glittering in the dark like a fucking merry-go-round. It's disgusting.
He looks down at his shoes, his face parched from the sun and the wind. There's a wince of pain in there somewhere.
Are they not heartbroken? How could they have moved on?
How have you concealed yourself all these years?
It was hard in the tens. I didn't have partisan training. They were searching for stragglers, those bloodhounds. Floodlights on the water at night.
There were posters, campaigns.
We communards still hoped, and they needed to snuff that hope out. The East capitulated. Martinez and Cold City were turned to dust. But Jamrock, Forburg, even Coron, and Boogie Street, of course. Those fucking kips had Marsov coursing through their veins. And others too. Some cordons of Revachol was still fighting. There were cells. I tried to contact them. Soon they all went silent. The frequency's dead.
How did you get between here and the mainland?
At night, I used a dinghy. I only went after dark then. When I got to the city, I stayed underground. Patrols, you lot, the commons too. They'd started snitching.
In the city, you move underground?
From bunker to bunker. Not anymore. No one cares now. I don't even have to hide. They think I'm another antisocial vagrant. I could walk straight into that town if I wanted.
He falls silent, his gaze fixed on the shacks huddled together across the water. The weapons cache under Saint-Ghislain, 22B, point to it. In the basement. Have you been there?
So you finally found it. There must have been a small squadron's worth of arms in there. Belma graves, right?
They were.
Useless now. Rusted away.
So you've been there?
Sleeping. Some nights. Ammo scrounging on others. Those McGraves were shit, even before they corroded. Some had bullets in the chamber, however.
There's a small bunker under the Feld building. Have you stayed there?
The propaganda bunker.
I
I used to, but not anymore.
Okay.
Propaganda bunker?
They stored leaflets there. Broadcasting equipment, too. Made broadcasts, I think. Propaganda officers. I buried them with their leaflets. They killed themselves. 2 young boys.
Killed themselves.
A lot of our boys did. I spent some winters there. Never liked it. Kept thinking of them. No need to go underground anymore. It's better in the ruins, on the ground.
Why don't you just walk there?
I don't want to. They're all traitors. Pigs, rabbits, and dogs. Men without ideals are only animals.
He does not want to see life moving on. People forgetting, drinking, laughing.
One more question. Do you smoke Tiamutiri cigarettes?
I do.
Ever smoke them on the mainland?
They're good. Plenty of tar. I like that boy on the pack, too. Reminds me of the last century.
Tell me another thing.
The old man looks across the water, at the city, the ruins, the motorways rising above it.
You said this is your termless surrender.
You're with the RCM, the coalition-appointed mob that enforces bourgeois morals in Revachol.
We're not coalition appointed. We just try to help people.
You're the RCM. You represent the Moralist International, the enemies of humanity who took this city. I represent their adversary, le Parti Communiste dans le Monde. Take me to them as a prisoner of war. I have relinquished my weapon. I can no longer serve. No superiors can relieve me of my duty. You bulldoze them all to a mass grave for trying to free humanity.
His hand shakes and he breaks into a coffee. I wasn't even born when this happened.
A spray of blood from his mouth on the black charcoal in the fire pit. Rene, the royalist on the coast, said,
The communards signed the Revacholian Instrument of Surrender.
Liberal reactionaries signed that instrument. Traitors who should have been burned alive. I answer to the Communist Party.
Is that part of why you've been here all this time? Because the party didn't surrender?
he just wipes the blood from his chin.
Understood.
I don't think you did. You live in a delusion. Radio shows, speed racing, and sporting goods. It's not real.
So you're a communist soldier from the Communist Army.
No, I am not a soldier. I am an ideological officer. I belong to the party, not the army.
But you said you were trained and assigned to the Defense Corps.
Trained in historical materialism, then assigned as a political commissar by the party. These things used to mean something.
Wait, what does a political commissar do?
The old man does not answer. He tilts his silver head and looks at the reeds. You see a small tremor pass through his legs.
His job was to assure the army answers to civilian control and follows the ideology of the commune.
Lieutenant says softly.
Scientific communism. A commissaire politique is a knight philosopher of the revolution, a future human.
Awakened from shutdown by the promise of ideology, he was like a cleric, a shepherd.
So you were like a priest.
No, the opposite of that. A future human, not a human of the past.
That means you're a trained communist, right?
He nods slowly, then another tremor.
I'm a revolutionary too. Today, the real revolutionizing is done by entrepreneurs.
You're part of the
Yes.
meat shield. The human meat shield that surrounds the fascists and the license holders. You take the fire while they rape and kill. That's what you are.
Detective, we have not come here to discuss ideology.
We haven't?
We have come to ask questions regarding a murder investigation.
The old man spits into the fire pit. He does not say anything more. A jitter passes his lower body. There's definitely something off with his body. Something more than just metabolism.
I have another serious question for you.
There's nothing serious in this world. It's a farce.
Whoa. What have you been using this gun for?
I've used it for killing people.
Killing people?
It's a gun. That's what they're for. You want a moralist euphemism? Defending your family and your property. I haven't done that. I've used it to kill people.
Interesting. During or after the war?
There is no after the war. Class war is never over.
So he's continued killing after hostilities ended. Okay. This is it. You can feel it, like battery acid on the tip of your tongue. Something you haven't felt in a while. But
But what?
this is what you live for. This is the shit. The great serotonin jackpot. The solution. Go in straight. No euphemisms. He doesn't like those. No. Be careful now. Slow and steady does it. Make him repeat it first. Don't mess this up. Remember, he wants to tell you. Get personal.
Okay. So you're saying you killed people after active fighting stopped. Did you use that gun to shoot and kill a colonel of the security contractor, Cornell? I know you want to tell me. Have you killed anyone with that gun in the last week or two? Wait, so which one do I say then? I'm confused too. Hand-eye coordination. Or suggestion. Or sorry, rhetoric. Did you use that gun to shoot and kill a colonel of the security contractor, Cornell?
The who now?
Leans in and cups his ear. The corpse in ceramic armor hanging behind the whirling in rags. Did you shoot him? The fascist death squad who took a bullet in the mouth on the night of the 4th. His name was Ellis Courtnair. He was part of the security detail here in Martinez. A beautiful strong man sent here by the honorable private military company, Cornell. The fascist death squad. He took a bullet in the mouth on the night of March 4th.
Oh, yes. That one. Ugly piece of work, that boy.
Did you kill him?
Lieutenant takes a sudden step toward him.
I am a son of a welder and an officer of the commune of Revachol. I do not collaborate with murderers and pederasts of the liberal regime.
Exhaust him with proof. Pile it all on him. Get a confession. The gun, the murder weapon, is the perfect opener. The scent of blood in the air. But what else? There was something you can't remember.
I don't need your cooperation. I've got this. Show him the gun.
Not a lot of guns around that use military-grade ammunition, are there?
It's a real gun. Not like your little musketeer pistol. I've seen you prance around with that, jumping hoops for the liberals. You look like imbeciles. Why don't you ask them to give you real weapons, eh? Going against automatic rifles with a flame bomb. Of course you got all those boys killed.
Damn, he saw you. He's watched it happen. So he saw you. Okay. So what? Don't let it divert you.
Stop changing the subject. We have the murder weapon.
You know what? You're right. I'm convinced this made the shot. Should we call it?
Dramatically ask, you think we have the murder weapon? He's saying I'm convinced. Okay, I'm calling it. We have the murder weapon.
Good.
Hey! Boom! Inland Empire! Holy shit. So just the two that we haven't done. We need to get a confession, though. Lieutenant takes out his notebook and draws a single line.
This feels good, doesn't it? Tearing things up like this. When you have the murder weapon, you have the killer.
Murder.
The old man does not say more. He just glances into the reeds and then twitches once more.
Like a marionette on some invisible string. This pushed him, but not enough. Just a little more.
We've done the ballistics, points to the tower. The shot came from this island.
I saw you poking around there, looking for evidence. You're damn diligent when it comes to dead fascists. Did you like the view?
A jitter passes him.
You had direct visibility. There are embrasures in the concrete, specifically meant for a top follower to use. And you had a long-range rifle in your possession.
Lieutenant softens his voice.
You have been here a long time, Mr. Droz. Too long. You need medical aid.
I'm ready to die. I've done my part.
He's practically admitting to it. Dead fascists for fascists. done his part.
Something's wrong here. The view is perfect. With a pair of binoculars, I could have seen in the room.
Because it's a sniper's nest, you stupid fuck. Radio Gosh is right. You have worms in your brain.
Is he trying to get us to kill him? Another sudden twitch, then one more. One in his right eye.
Almost. He almost burst out there. Keep piling arguments. Anything.
Come on, what am I forgetting? Hit yourself in the side of the head.
Wait, here it comes. The goddamn Maybells. The dried Maybells on Clausia's roof.
Oh, yes!
There were Maybells in the grass when you got here, and Maybells on Clausia's balcony. Wait, don't forget the footprints. The diagonal prints in the dust in the secret space behind Clausia's bedroom. Now, they're gonna come up.
Of course, thank you, Head, thank you.
You got it. Remember, the boot prints were like no modern soul. Maybe don't beat yourself anymore, though. You're not immortal.
Maybells behind the victim's window. I saw them growing here.
Damn Maybells. The whole island is turning white with them.
He seems tender suddenly, nostalgic even. A strange mood swing.
So many this year, too. The spring is coming. No, it's already here. Wash the filth away.
A young woman named Clausia. Ring any bells? Flowers like these. Let's go with. I haven't seen these flowers anywhere else in Martinez, only here because the other ones continue.
They blossom on the islets before we fertilize them with our blood. Resurrection was snow white in May before they ruined it. The coast, too, before they piled their containers on top of it, filled with broken, useless trash for fat-fingered bourgeois children to play with.
You must get around a lot to stay undetected all these years. Do you know any secret paths? Pinball workshops?
I may.
A young woman called Clausia. Ring any bells? Flowers like these are behind her window.
Clausia.
He repeats the name with care, as if it were at risk of breaking.
You like that name, don't you? She had intimate relations with the victim, the mercenary.
With the victim.
He turns his sights from the whitening field of flowers and falls silent. Then the muscles in his jaw twitch, a spasm.
Don't leave any loose ends. Get him on everything.
I wonder what brand of boots you're wearing.
Everything is brands with you individualists. Who cares what brand my shoes are? Sansa?
He looks
Some shit.
at his running shoes covered in mud.
Show me the soles, please, Mr. Torres.
Fucking imbecile.
The old man stretches out his leg. A black and white spiral pattern covers the sole of the worn-out old running shoes on his feet.
The maker is called Sensorique. You see their V-shaped logo, but can't make out the size. These are not the unusual horizontal patterned soles you saw in the dust on the floor of the hidden room. They do, however, seem to be about the same size.
The size fits, but not the sole.
Then it comes to the same conclusion. Maybe it's simpler than that? Let's go for it!
Sire, he doesn't have to be wearing them right now.
People change shoes. It doesn't mean you weren't there near the room the victim died in, sneaking around.
Racking those brains, are you? Desperate to report something back to your masters? They must have really loved that dead fuck.
The lieutenant gives you a quick sideways glance and nods to acknowledge. The prints were his. You can see it in those eyes. He can't keep them from flickering, looking for something. The old man stares at his own prints in the ash around the fire. Silent suddenly, some strange process within him. A gush of wind. Seagulls in the distance.
You know who he was. A coalition-trained murderer. Armored and armed. He wasn't human. The blunt end of a hammer, dripping with blood.
He was a killer, but he was still under the protection of the law.
Beating us to the ground, moaning with joy. You hounds get so thorough when a company-trained killer dies. I haven't seen you on this coast for 40 years. You know, maybe I should have killed one sooner. Got your attention. Now you stop beating druggies and prostitutes in your basement. Now you come to investigate. Not when they die by the hundreds.
This is it. Shot him. Shot him. Say shot him, not killed him.
So you shot him.
Oh, the inhumanity. One paramilitary less in Revachol.
You can almost see him squeeze a tear out of his eye. His fists begin to tremble from the anger.
The lieutenant raises his right arm to hush you. Hush. He does not need to be pushed anymore. The ball is rolling.
Hold your breath.
I had them in my sights. Both of them. Him and the whore. I was breathing with them, in phase, and I pulled the trigger and flew on the air until I landed in his mouth.
He begins to smile.
I didn't think I had a shot like that in me anymore. I did. I saw him kneel there with his mouth full of death, and that stupid look on his face. And his dick still in her.
Then what?
Nothing. I went to sleep. Next morning there were Maybells everywhere. The world was white, or what's left of it anyway. My last spring here. I knew the fascists would come to avenge their own. And so they did.
Mr. Dross, are you aware you're confessing to murder?
Lieutenant asks after a second of silence.
Yes.
Yes! New skill point. Inland Empire!
And you were looking at them, the victim and a young woman, having sex, through the scope of your rifle that night, before you shot him?
Lieutenant takes out his notebook slowly, very slowly.
The old man nods.
Why?
Because that's what they were doing.
He shrugs, then smacks his lips.
The motive. This is where the motive is going to come from. You can coax it out of him. The lieutenant's preparing the ground.
I don't understand. Do you, detective? I don't understand this part.
Why were you looking at them that night?
I'm always looking.
Cocks his head to the side, then turns his eyes to the city. Another tremor passes his right side, lower in intensity.
Are you always looking through the scope of a rifle? I'm just trying to understand.
A rifle scope has the best magnification.
And if you don't like it?
Click.
You pull the trigger.
Yes. Think of it as a form of critique.
Start with when he first saw him. It will give him a chance to ramble.
When did you first see the deceased?
3 weeks ago, when the rich hag came in on her galley. Her honor guard came in tow.
Joyce. He means Joyce.
By that you mean Joyce Messier, the Wild Pines rep?
Wrinkled up whore.
Okay. Moving on. The victim arrives sometime after her.
They moved into a deserted apartment above the roundabout. Radio equipment out for all to see. Reactionary radio playing, sloppy and drunk. I've seen their kind during the landing. Those Occidental and Mesk phalangs weren't conscripts. Boys like us. They were whites. All they know is to destroy and hurt.
Whites?
Barely alive. They like to kill while they're on their drugs. After the landing, in the burning years, I would take shots at them. End them. The worst ones, if I had a bullet to spare. I could see they've returned now, to show their real face. The face they don't dare show their bourgeois voters back on Mundi, with their families and polyester clothes.
What specifically did you not like about what you saw the night of the murder?
Them. Fucking. I didn't like that.
So you were jealous?
Jealousy is a reactionary concept. I didn't like the Reaver enjoying himself, drugged out, soothed in the arms of a young woman. I wanted him to die so he could not enjoy life anymore. And I wanted to see his head explode. That too. She should know better than to hold a child murderer between her thighs. I knew he'd be there for one more second, writhing. That's all it takes for the bullet to reach his head. Now that I think of it, I wasn't aiming for his mouth. I wanted his brains to spill out on her. But you can't have everything.
He wants to see her covered in blood. To punish her.
How long had you been watching her?
Since she came to Martinez. I saw her sneaking in the reeds early in the morning, behind the Fell building. It was dark, still winter. She didn't have her skimpy outfit on then, just a spot in the night, moving.
Past the Fell building on the coast? What was she doing there?
Hiding something in the water. She had a fag after she'd done it. I was up in the ruins there. She couldn't see me, but I could see her, smoking. She was nervous, but not scared.
What do you think she hid there?
Her passport and tickets to Villiers. And from there to Cachet Brut.
This is the hidden buoy she told us about. You looked into it?
After she was gone.
Ah.
Did you keep what was in it? When we found the submersible, it was empty.
No. Why would I do that? I didn't need tickets to Villiers. I'd put them back. If I wanted to extort someone, I'd do better.
This implies that he's thought about extorting her.
Are you sure? We checked the submersible. There was nothing there.
Why would I need that trash? I'm not going to Villiers.
Okay, moving on. Did you continue watching her after this?
I did. She had a face like an archipelago, with those birthmarks, and a body hard and lean and bruised all over, black and yellow. I could see she's taken a beating. I could see who she was, too. A spook, on the run. Revachol's the cloaca of capital now. All the bagmen and arms dealers end up here to do drugs and have sex like animals.
You could tell she was a spook? From the documents?
She had different color hair on the photo, and glasses. Forged. Some sordid bourgeois affair. I've heard about this kind of thing on the radio.
How did you see all this? The bruises that she was beaten?
I'm not
she was beaten.
blind, am I?
How does he know those minute details about her body?
It quickly comes to you.
The bruises on her body, any chance you've seen them through a hole in a wall?
Oh, yes. Cutting those drugs of hers into little lines with a knife. Masturbating.
Did you make that hole?
With a clip point knife.
What the fuck, man? Ever see her through a window on a roof?
Like that, too. Yes. Bending like a bow against the glass.
So you've been through the secret route behind the whirling and rags. Those were your footprints there. You just changed your shoes.
I've been through all of Martinez. Every nook and cranny.
And that too.
Yes, that too. The things they did in that little room. What she'd do to feel good. Funny the way light works. You turn it on inside, and it gets so dark out. You can't see a man looking in. I learned that in the 20s, when they were still hunting me. I've seen people do some shit, but...
He keeps shaking his head.
Those two took the cake. You hear the familiar scribble of the lieutenant's pen. A quick glance at you. One more loose end down. We're doing this, detective.
How did you get in there? The hidden pinball workshop.
I can just walk in there now after a good wash. I told you, they think I'm an antisocial. Closing hour is a good time. The kitchen's empty.
You had to open the steel door in the kitchen? How?
I got that open a long time ago. Some bourgeois game merchant lived there. I don't know, 15 years ago. He left spare keys all over, and I took one. Then I saw her turn the light on one night in my scope.
Points towards the whirling in rags.
Andy found use for it. A spare key, like the one hanging behind the union box window.
You had feelings for that woman.
There's nothing to hold on to. Only this. It's not enough.
The coals of his eyes glisten suddenly, like stones dripping with water. Is he crying?
Man needs to feel something else. In this fight, it helps if you have your eye on something there. It's weakness, I know.
There have been others?
Yes, over the years. It's not unproletarian to feel something.
Is that why you left the dried flowers behind her window?
No.
He starts to shake his head again, a sunflower on a withered stalk. Why then?
I don't really know. I was there one night and she was crying, like a child, in the corner of our room on the floor, like she does sometimes.
When was this?
The day after I killed him.
And you brought her Maybells.
Yes. I don't know why I do the things I do anymore.
It's as if something put the thought there to leave the flowers.
You wanted to console her.
Maybe. I told you, I have holes in my brain now. I wouldn't just sit here waiting for you. If you came 10 years ago, I would have killed you.
He wipes his eye.
In the silence, the lieutenant draws a line in his notes, then nods at you once more. One more down.
You wanted to punish her, so you killed him.
She practically breastfed that man. You wouldn't believe the things she let him do to her.
Shakes his head and stares at the ashes.
You stare at them too. In your mind, her innocence day still turns to leaf. Airport bag in hand, silks flowing in her wake.
The dream.
See you tomorrow, Harry. Her voice rings in the evening air, burning.
I'm not like that. I don't think like that.
No one gives a shit what you think. You and your cronies kill 10 working-class men a day. I've heard the statistics on Channel 8.
So in conclusion, it wasn't about him. It was about her.
Her.
He repeats, staring at the ashes, then the reeds. There's a twitch in the corner of his eye.
The lieutenant nods at you in acknowledgement.
That's it!
That's it. Motive. We have it.
Where is she, that Clausia? I haven't seen her there for days.
She got away, but she led us here first. She figured out someone was watching her from the sea fort.
Gone. I knew it. She kept staring into the scope this last week at the island, like she knew. She'd look at night, crying or smoking on the roof, staring right into me. It doesn't matter.
Across the water, on a dilapidated jetty in a nameless village, made of grey cinder block houses with Eternite roofs. 2 police officers and 1 special consultant look across a narrow strip of sea. He's there, doing what exactly, I don't know. Satellite Officer Vic Mayer points at the ruins. Behind that anti-aircraft something. That's why we can't see
They're
it.
coming!
Special Consultant Heidelstein is optimistic. We'll see the boat when he comes. Let's go get a coffee until then. I know this interesting little place. Where? His voice trails off as the 3 walk down the jetty.
Okay, they're just hanging out. They're just hanging out on the other coast, the other side.
As the men go, Patrol Officer Minnow looks back over her shoulder at the crumbling fortification like a rotten tooth rising out of the water. Good luck, Harry, she thinks. You need something good for this.
We
Nice.
could get more. We've got him talking.
You could get more out of him. He likes talking. Enough. Take him in. Bend his arms behind his back and end this.
Ah, okay. Let's see if we can assess his body language. Wait. I should have been putting points in composure.
For a 60-year-old man with stomach trouble who spent his entire life alone on an uninhabited island, he seems surprisingly fit.
Does he have like a bomb? He's swallow like... Keep spitting on the fire.
He's prone to erratic hand gestures and clearly malnourished. But that's it. You can see no more by looking at his slouched frame. The moment passes, and you say,
You're under arrest for the murder of Elis Courtenaire.
What? But you said I would be taken to the...
Your Wayfarer rights have been suspended. Information provided to the officers on the scene will be used against you by the prosecution. You will be given legal counsel within 1 week and must face court in 44 days. Do you understand?
Oh. Not happy face.
Do you understand?
But...
Do you understand, sir?
No, I don't want to. I have to stay here.
He looks at the reeds, eyes submerged in growing terror.
he's sweating. Beads are forming on his forehead.
Your confirmation is not required, sir. Now on to the boat.
Wait!